All right, in studio to assess, CBS lead NFL insider Jonathan Jones. JJ, we don't have any further clarity on what it could look like moving forward for Burrow, but what do we know now?
So Joe Burrow suffered that injury to a toe on his left foot. What we know right now is he was taken in for x-rays and an MRI. I believe that the x-rays were negative, and then he went for the MRI. Do not yet have the results of that MRI. Zac Taylor, the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, after the win, had no further update on Joe Burrow. But you have to be concerned with the mechanism here, with everything that's going on, that a potential turf toe injury could be the main concern from what I understand. And look, we don't have the video of it, but after he got out of the MRI room later on, he was on a scooter. He was not putting any weight on that foot whatsoever. And when you look at the upcoming schedule for the Cincinnati Bengals, right, you got the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos in the next two games up.
Road for both.
Those defenses that Jake Browning, if you don't have Joe Burrow, will be going up against. So feel good about the win, but a lot of folks in Cincinnati right now holding their breath with Joe Burrow.
You don't want to look too far down the road, but no respite in the form of a home matchup against the Detroit Lions and then a trip to the Packers defense, which might be the best in the NFL right now. We will obviously bring you all the latest on Joe Burrow here as it comes to us. Pat, I've always thought that turf toe, if it is that, sort of has a PR issue. It sounds like it's nothing, but it's certainly something. What is a player going through when they're suffering something known as turf toe?
Oh, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where all your pressure, your power, everything goes through your big toe on your foot. And when you have a turf toe injury, it can take a lot out of you. That's why Deion Sanders couldn't play majority of his career, especially when he was in Dallas, because he was dealing with a lot of those turf toes injuries. So this is a big deal. And the fact that he walked out of the stadium, left the stadium on a scooter, that's concerning.
No pressure.
When you're looking at a team like this, in this season of their schedule, if you will, as JJ outlined it. Jake Browning, he's a serviceable enough backup, but the fact that they were able to come out with a win today, the importance of that when your star quarterback suffers an injury.
This was a gut win for Cincinnati, because what we've talked about with them the last few seasons under Zac Taylor, the inability to get off to good starts in the month of September. Well, they're 2-0. Last week it wasn't a pretty win, but they found a way to win. Today, without their franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow, they found a way to win. So that is a positive thing to carry on into next week. Now it's about getting healthy. Now, if you don't have Joe Burrow, you still got to go out and compete because they found a way to win. So that has to be the main mindset throughout the locker room. With or without Joe Burrow, we believe we can win ball games. That's what playoff caliber teams do, because we know it's a long season, and the backup quarterback is not important until he is important. And Jake Browning became important today. He made some mistakes, but he delivered also. And the defense played really good football. They had opportunities to fold like we've seen in years past, but they still stood up and they made the plays that were needed for them to be able to win this ball game.
2-0, they would have signed for that, but 2 and a toe. Yeah, you saw this.
That was good.
No, I don't think it was very good. But
That's okay.
we'll see if they would sign for that. 2-0 is the way that Cincinnati starts. Joe Burrow, he is in question moving forward. Back in studio with the guys, and the word resounding in my head in preparation for this game was response. We wanted to see the way the Ravens would respond to the game ending in week 1. What did you make of the response and the levee breaking here in the second half?
Well, what the Ravens did, they took advantage of some short fields, because for the first 2.5 quarters of this game, Cleveland's defense looked like Cleveland's defense from week 1, looked like Cleveland's defense really the better part of the last 2-3 years under Jim Schwartz, because they were scoring from 24 out, 51 yards out, and then 5 yards out. So Lamar Jackson and that offense didn't have to do too much. And then they started to pour it on. But the one guy that I would highlight is DeAndre Hopkins, who I think when he signed with the Baltimore Ravens, it was like, all right, well, you got the corpse of DeAndre Hopkins going to Baltimore, and hopefully he can maybe stay healthy once they play January football. This is a guy who is making plays so far through the first 2 weeks, important plays for this Baltimore Ravens team. So should have won week 1, nice bounce back here, leaving no doubt against the foe.
Targeted twice, 2 receptions, and a touchdown. It hasn't been volume to D-Hop, but when his number is called, he has showed up through these first 2 games. Mac, the Ravens responded the way we expect them to against this Cleveland team, but sometimes when they play Cleveland, they're caught in a stalemate for longer than this.
No question. I mean, that's AFC North football. It's something about the Cleveland Browns, regardless of what their overall record may be. They play tough within the division. Just ask the Cincinnati Bengals, who were biting their teeth for 4 quarters. And this is the bright thing about this game in terms of how Baltimore won. JJ, you talked about how stagnant the offense was for Baltimore. But guess what? Their defense was not. They were balling, and they needed to have a get-right moment. This was a get-right moment playing against the Cleveland Browns and Joe Flacco because of what did not happen last week, and they played outstanding football. They forced turnovers. Heck, they even scored a touchdown, something they haven't done since 2020. So when you look at their defense with all the high-level players they have on all 3 levels, this is what we expect to see from the Baltimore Ravens, not the letdown that we saw in the second half last week against the Buffalo Bills.
And with the Baltimore Ravens, the Browns, you don't want to give this team bulletin board material. And that's what they gave them today, saying Derrick Henry was an easy tackle, saying nothing that the Baltimore secondary was going to do, Jared Judy, I'm speaking of, was going to do to hurt them as a receiver core. We needed to see this game for the Baltimore Ravens. They started out a little slow in the first half because we all know what the Browns defense presents to the Baltimore Ravens. They know each other very well, but in the second quarter, they put it on them. And the quiet thing about it is Derrick Henry didn't even have a big day. 11 yards, 11 rushes, 23 yards. And they still found a way to put up 41 points.
41-17. It was Myles Garrett at that bulletin board to begin the week saying, "We feel disrespected as 2 touchdown dogs against the Baltimore Ravens."